Greetings. This is Robert Muhammad with National Network View. Before we delve into today's top news, let's do a recap on the current events we've covered this week. On yesterday's broadcast, Tariq X spoke with NNV's reporter Nina Shabazz and Valerie Campbell about the law of attraction and sexual polarity.
Sure. Can you tell us what does the acronym VIBE stand for?
Right. VIBE stands for vision, intention, belief, and expectation. And it's a formula that I devised from my learnings and from my just understanding about how men and women relate to one another. And so it takes women on a journey. So the V is for vision, which basically teaches the woman how to look at herself in the right way, acknowledge what she's been indoctrinated with, what the world tells that she has about herself. So that's the vision. And then from that place, then setting an intention for how she wants to feel in a relationship. So for example, a lady might say to me, she wants a guy with washboard abs, and, tall, dark and handsome. And when you dig deep and say, well, why do you want that? It's because she wants to feel a particular way. I then deal with the beliefs, which is the limiting beliefs. And sometimes you can have beliefs that actually sabotage the relationship that you're in, or actually sabotage the type of man that you want to attract, or attraction works. Take out those beliefs that are sabotaging the relationship. It ends them in expectation, and understanding that you're not going to lean on your understanding of how you think you're Mr. Right. That's what the VIBE formula is about.
Hassan Muhammad provided valuable information on establishing a budget, reducing spending on non-essential goods, and building wealth.
How can you use budgeting to start to build up wealth for you and your family?
Just very quickly, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but as we talked about that bottom line, that net operating income, if you have, let's say, an additional $1,000 a month on your net operating income, you and your family now can sit down and say, okay, what is it that we can do with $1,000? What can we either A, invest in, or B, buy and resell or make and produce with that 1,000 to turn it into 1,100? Even just turning it into 1,100. If you can do that every single month, you will be better than every single Wall Street investor that there is out there. That's a 10% gain. So, yes, sir.
Patrick Oliver would read out loud. Readers and Writers event discussed reading and writing literacy programs to decrease the achievement gap of young Black boys.
What factors have led to these poor literacy outcomes among Blacks and Hispanics?
Lack of attention. Bottom line, when you send your children to schools, we taught somebody about somebody that doesn't look like them, what do we expect to happen? And that's what is happening. People that does not look like our children are teaching our children, and they are not giving them the best product necessary for them to become proficient. As a matter of fact, our children are born at genius level. We know this. We know this from just scientific research. We just know this from just being around our children. So when we send them to school for others to teach them, they're not going to teach our children or nurture their natural genius. They're going to give them just enough so they can possibly pass some standardized tests, so they can receive their federal dollars, wherever the case may be. But that's the first problem. And the other problem is they don't really understand, again, what nurtures Black children, Black boys' interests.
NNV contributor Brian E. Muhammad discussed the UN General Assembly commemorative meeting acknowledging victims of the transatlantic slave trade, the need for reparatory justice, and the ways the U.S. and European nations continue to benefit from slave labor, colonization, and stolen land.
In what ways has the U.S. and other European nations benefited from slave labor, benefited from colonization, and even stolen lands?
There's a book that the Nation of Islam research team put together called How the White Man Got So Rich. And then there's another book that was out for many years called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. See, these books are talking about the exploitation and how that was done. Now, when you look at slavery, the traditional slavery as we know it, of what happened to our people, if you take a land from our indigenous brothers and sisters, and then you go in Africa and you bring Africans and enslave Africans, and they work for free for 300 years, right? That will put you in a very good position financially if you're the enslaver.
Sister Charlene Muhammad discussed how freedom of speech is being denied to those who speak out against the dangers of COVID vaccines, including Attorney Kennedy of the Children's Health Defense Organization.
Now, would you say that the government and the media are waging an attack on constitutional rights and freedoms of speech?
Well, yes, I will say what Attorney Robert F. Kennedy, who is the chair and he's the chief legal counsel for Children's Health Defense, has told me, as well as the another counsel with his organization, that this is definitely attack on freedom of speech. And once that's gone, then all of the other rights are stripped away. But how can you say that people who are voicing concerns, they say, critics argue, about what's injuring people? How can you say that they have no right to say that and shut out those voices? The ultimate end is, again, depopulation.
Dr. Keeley updated us on the new strain of the COVID virus that is spreading across the United States, the new wave of COVID infections, and the benefits of the sun as a natural immune booster.
What has your research of this vaccine led you to conclude so far?
Well, public statements like that lady that we just heard are really, to me, statements that don't really have merit. Because for somebody to say that the vaccine is the reason why numbers are going down in the UK, there aren't any there is no evidence that can purport her claim. There was a downturn in most areas of the world outside of the United States before vaccines became available. The United States was really one of the few countries that were still on a high rise of the numbers. So to say that vaccines have caused a lower infection rate, I think is probably a little bordering on not telling the truth from my experience and research.
Netfa Freeman of Black Alliance for Peace updated us on the protests in Haiti, the interventionism of the United States, United Nations and Organizations of America's states into Haiti and other neo-colonized countries.
The Haitian people's right to national sovereignty must be respected. Is the Haitian president Jovenel Moise's refusal to step down disrespecting the Haitian people's right to sovereignty?
Well, I mean, absolutely it is. There's thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people in the street protesting Jovenel Moise. And so whenever the people aren't able to exercise and have what they want in terms of leadership, in terms of government, in terms of policies, then that means that they don't have any sovereignty. Not to mention the fact that the Jovenel Moise represents the interests of the West. He is like the person before him, Michel Martelly. They have been handpicked by the United States, by the U.S. pretty much, but all the Western powers, and so without, as long as the people can't get their choice in terms of being exercise democratic rights to voting on people, representatives, and policies, then that's a breach of the sovereignty of the people.
Dr. Abdul Halim Muhammad and Dr. Asad El Malik discussed the Derek Chauvin murder trial, post-traumatic slave syndrome, and the lack of intervention to prevent his murder.
If Derek Chauvin is found guilty or he's found innocent, from your perspective, what would be the impact of the verdict? If he's found guilty, how would that impact Black America? And what would probably be Black America's response? And if he's found innocent, how would that impact Black America?
I think obviously a guilty verdict will serve the benefits of justice, and we'll be able to say that justice was achieved and delivered in that case. However, I'm not expecting a guilty verdict. I'm expecting either a hung jury or acquittal. And I'm sure that we remember this, the summer activities of the protest. I'm sure we'll see a lot of protests. I'm sure we'll see a lot of lofty speeches from politicians and different members of our community. But maybe I'm cynical, but I don't believe anything will change in our psyche, nor will it change in theirs.
Drs. Muhammad and Dr. El Malik also discussed the music industry's controversial music content and the merchandising of industry artists that have been going on for decades now.
Candace Owens, and people agree with her, disagree with her, but one of the things that she said was that online to Lil Nas X was that he was being used by these corporations and these big execs to basically destroy the minds of children. Was she right in that assessment, or is she off basis?
Well, Black masculinity has been under attack since our feet hit the shores of North America, with buck breaking, lynching, police brutality, the propaganda in the media that makes us look like a beast. When you look at the Birth of a Nation movie by D.W. Griffith, that we're incompetent, we're incapable, we're unqualified to hold public office, and all we want to do is sleep with a white woman. And all of this, and then we look at the mass incarceration. We're people, especially Black men, that are endangered species. So so you can again go and look at just the whole atmosphere environment that's being created now about that we are the source of anti-Semitism, we're the source of misogyny, we're the source of anti-Asian hate, we're the source of all of the evils that embody America. But you know something, if you lift our tag in the back of our shirt, it won't say made in China, it'll say made in the USA.
Evanston, Illinois' reparation plan provides some Black residents that were victims of discriminatory housing redlining with reparation payments.
Is it a mere symbolic gesture, or is this a good first step?
It's a step. I don't know if it's good, and I don't know if it's a first step. But if it involves land, now you got my attention as an urban planner. You have my attention. Because without land, this whole thing is about property. It's about land. Remember the 39 men, actually 40 signatures on the Constitution, but the 39 men that signed the Constitution of the United States, they were white male property owners. And they didn't even want white men that didn't own property to vote. It's about land. So we got to have land in order to feed, clothe, and shelter ourselves. It's a good start, but it doesn't end there. You can give somebody money, but if you don't educate them with the knowledge of self to do for self, then that land can be taken from them. That money can be taken from them. And if you give them land to feed, clothe, and shelter themselves, you got to give them the tools and implements and materials necessary to sustain themselves. And you do have to provide a measure of capital so that they're able to continue and perpetuate what it is that they're doing. So land, education, tools, equipment, material, and capital. But really, we need more. We need like 100 million acres just to start.
Sister Carmen Muhammad, inspirational fashion designer and founder of Al-Nisa Designs, Modest Style MGT Apparel, has garnered international acclaim and awards during Torino Fashion Week.
How examples of how you have seen the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan be an advocate for the rights of women?
Every time he does a lecture and he is focusing on the value of the woman, the value of the mother, the value of the daughter, the beauty of the woman, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does nothing but lift the woman up and inspires us to be women of God. Everything that he does is to build a better life for us. He understands who we are. He understands that we are that second self of God. And he tries every time he speaks to us to let us know that his love for us is so pure and so real, and that he is the protector over us. And he will continue to do that because he is constantly exalting the women.
Let us pause from some announcements from our sponsors. When we return, Student Regional Minister Patrick Muhammad will give us the Al-Asar Report. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
This is Sister Sajida Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajida House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajidahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
The Al-Asar Report. Current events and commentary on the time and what must be done. A huge container ship called the Ever Given was just freed on March 29th, approximately a week ago. The Ever Given was stuck in the Suez Canal for 6 days, clogging up one of the world's most critical shipping arteries.
The Suez Canal is one of the most important trade routes in the world. But for 6 days, it was impassable, blocked by an enormous cargo ship spanning the width of the canal. For just under a week, no vessel could pass in or out, and hundreds of ships were either stuck or forced to make enormous detours with a massive cost to global trade. For hundreds of years, if you wanted to transport goods to a port here in Mumbai from a port here in Liverpool, it would require a nearly 13,500-mile journey, south past Europe and down the Atlantic coast of Africa, with a U-turn at its most southern point, and then up across the Indian Ocean. That was until the completion of the Suez Canal in 1859, connecting the Mediterranean to the Red Sea, reducing the same trip to just 7,500 miles. And at the same time, connecting the world in ways previously thought unimaginable and opening up a whole new era of global trade.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talked about how the judgment of Allah God is on America and famine is on the rise.
Well, the scriptures have clearly shown that the judgment of Allah is against America. The Holy Quran in the 7th Surah, the 130th verse says, quote, "And certainly we overtook Pharaoh's people with droughts and diminution of fruit, that they might be mindful." Is America under drought right now? Is there diminution of fruit right now? In the book of Psalms, the 105th chapter, the 16th verse, we read, "Moreover, God called for a famine upon the land." That is coming. These books make it clear that the judgment will be in the form of rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes.
Joining us to discuss how, all the way from Miami, Florida, is Student Regional Minister Patrick Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Brother Robert. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on the show with you.
Thank you for coming, my brother. In the final call entitled Food Insecurity, COVID-19 and its impact on your ability to eat by Nisa Islam, she said, quote, food insecurity revealed significant racial disparities before COVID-19 struck. The pandemic only made things worse. Feeding America projects 42 million people, 1 in 8 Americans, including 13 million children, or 1 in 6, may experience food insecurity in 2021 due to COVID-19. 21% of Blacks, 1 in 5, may experience food insecurity in 2021 compared to 11% of whites, 1 in 9. Question to you, dear brother, is what are your thoughts about this paragraph? And is this your first time hearing about these grim statistics?
Yes, sir. I actually, when I read the Final Call newspaper, the April 6th edition, is when I found out about these statistics, the shocking statistics. At the same time, we couldn't see that there were things already happening, but COVID-19 just brought the manifestation of it. As I read through these numbers and then the conditions that we know thereof, what came to my mind is the book by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad entitled The Fall of America. And in The Fall of America, the very last chapter is entitled The Worst is Yet to Come. So as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been a divine warner, telling us what is coming. And I saw the clip on the Savior's Day here, that was in 2013. So right now, that's 8 years ago. However, he's been warning us for a very long time. And as I watched this, I remember when COVID-19 happened in the state of Florida, there is a city called Homestead. And in Homestead, for the very first time, there was a long line of people waiting for, I think, almost a mile or more just to get to a food bank to get some food. So this is a shock to a lot of us. And it also brings to my mind in the Holy Quran that talks about the shock of the hour is a grievous thing. And so as we are manifesting what we are witnessing, and as the minister just quoted what he quoted, it also brings to mind, Brother Robert, the book of Amos in the Bible, the 8th chapter, somewhere around the 11th verse, that talks about how, behold, the days come, saith the Lord God, that he will send a famine in the land. But then what's interesting in that particular verse, he says that the famine is this one here. He says it's not a famine of bread, nor one of thirst for water, but it is a famine of hearing the words of the Lord. So this is now taking us on famine that it is physical, but it's also spiritual. And when we look up the word or the definition of spiritual famine, it is talking about describing a state of spiritual hunger that is arising for failure to experience the presence and joy of God. Well, the thing is that we've had the food and the water in the spiritual sense coming through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as an extension of the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So now we're looking at the consequences of a world, an old world that's going out and a new world that's coming in. And if we don't hurry up and do something for ourselves, get our act right, we're in deep, deep, deep trouble.
Wow. So my brother, given these grave and sobering statistics, why do you think that this type of information hasn't been or isn't being covered in the mainstream media?
I was watching a movie the other day. It's an old movie. When I mention it, you probably remember it. I think it's called 2012. Is when they were talking about the Mayan calendar, right, and the predictions and China and everything else. So I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but the other day I decided to, well, let me just watch it again. And in there, I forgot the actor's name, but the role that he played, he was trying to warn his family to get out because an earthquake was coming. And the mother of his children, they were saying to him, why is dad so crazy? Why is he so angry? And he's yelling, telling them to get out, leave, and everything else. And then the mother of the children said to him, look, the governor just said that everything is okay and everything is going to be fine. And his response, paraphrasing to the mother of his children, was, when they tell you don't panic, that's when you run. So it's like you got to do the opposite. Well, we can expect Satan in controlling the media, the mainstream media that is, to give us the truth, that truth that will set us free. They choose, they select what it is that they want to relate to the American people and to people in general. And so theirs is not unintentional. It is intentional, as the minister teaches us, to keep the masses of the people dumbed down. Look at us. Our people in general, and then the citizen of the United States of America, can't wait for COVID-19 supposedly to be over. And that's another topic. So they can go back to business as usual. And what is taking our place? Oh, we're going to watch football games. We're going to watch basketball games. We're going to watch baseball games with no one in the stands. But we're still watching it, being dumbed down when the media could tell the truth. And because they won't do so, they do intend to keep all of the people dumbed down until we look and see hell in full place in front of us and wondering, I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. So it is by intention that they intend to keep the masses of the people dumbed down.
Absolutely. Thank you, my brother. Let's talk about some of the past and current supply chain disruptions in America. America is currently dealing with outside of the realm of food insecurity, particularly dealing with what we just discussed. So I guess the question would be this, in your humble opinion, how fragile is the American supply chain? And do you think more fissures or cracks will be discovered during the pandemic? And if so, could famine very well be one of them, and why?
Oh, yes. The writings are on the wall, and we are seeing it. We're actually living the scriptures. We're actually living prophecy. The book of Luke and the Bible talks about, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, in famines, in pestilences, in fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. And then Matthew, Jesus himself said, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And he says this is the beginning of sorrows. So we are living in a very serious time where we can see that indeed famines is here. The signs are everywhere. It is not only in America, it is in all over the world. It is in the Caribbean islands. It is in the continent of Africa and elsewhere. So there is a whole change that is taking place. When I was watching the commercial earlier in the clips from other guests that you had on the show, I watched a brother who was talking about the condition and the crisis, for instance, in Haiti, which is in the Western Hemisphere. I'm Haitian descent, and I've done several trips as well into Haiti with a coalition of brothers and sisters. And to hear that brother talk about that, I remember when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was in Haiti, and he was on a radio show being interviewed. And they asked him, what is it that you think we could do to avert, this type of fate, the condition of Haiti? And he replied that he himself could not make the prophets liars. He says the prophets prophesied what is to come. And he says, and I'm telling you from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad that more famine is on the way, pestilences is on the way, and war is on the horizon. Now, keep in mind, that was in 2011, 10 years ago now. So what we are watching and witnessing is an old world going out, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, and a new world coming in. So yes, sir, famine is definitely on the rise. We just have to prepare ourselves for the shock of the hour.
Thank you, my brother. Let's pause for some announcements from our sponsors, and we'll return with more questions and answers with Student Regional Minister Patrick Muhammad. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. As we renovate and restore the former home of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have recycled the old copper gutters and downspouts and created a 1 ounce 39 millimeter coin made of 100% pure copper. Each coin is professionally graded and has its own barcode and registration number. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
We're back with Student Regional Minister Patrick Muhammad. So, Brother Patrick, how do we fortify ourselves, our families, and our communities against these supply chain disruptions in the light of the fact that the coronavirus variants, according to health experts, has the potential to create a fourth wave of infections?
Oh, yes, sir. Well, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does, time dictates the agenda. And the agenda is for us to, first of all, we must attain to our spirituality. The minister told us on July 4th, 2020, during his powerful message, The Criterion, he said that the deadly coronavirus is a God-sent pestilence. And neither America nor China or others will escape the grip. And now we have it as to where these vaccines came out, which we have heard many scientists, virologists speak of how the virus is mutating itself. Well, I just read in the newspaper the other day in the LA Times where there's a double mutant virus now that is from India into California. So if the pestilence is God sent, then there's something that we have to do in our behaviors to turn. There's no vaccines in that case. We have to turn our spirit and our mind. And the scriptures come to me, Brother Robert, where the scripture says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face. Now watch this now, and turn from their wicked ways. And the God says, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. That's what we must do. The old so-called Negro has to die out of us. Our behavior, the minister teaches us, the whole planet has brought this. So God is saying, turn to me now. I don't care what you call yourself. Call yourself a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, whatever. Your behavior has caused this. Our behavior has caused this. So we have to turn in that way. And now for us as a people, when we turn and become like-minded individuals and brothers and sisters in humanity, we can pool our resources. We can share with one another. So many people are doing gardening now. We're taking our mouths out of the enemy's kitchen. People, believers, and others are growing. Now there's an interest to purchase land and acres of lands, come together. I might not be able to do it by myself. You might not be able to do it by yourself, but together we can do it. And this man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is the perfect example for us, showing us the life-giving teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad of what we must do for ourselves. So I close that by saying, we pull our resources because our greatest handicap is the fear of the enemy. Fear of the enemy. So if they tell us no more schools, no more travel, we tell them the hell with you. We're going to unite and pull our own resources, do something for ourselves, produce our own schools, have our own restaurants, have our own hotels. We have it. We can do it. So time is dictating the agenda, Brother Robert. If we don't do it, we are in deep trouble to suffer the consequences of what lies ahead for us.
Absolutely. So let's bring this all together, all of the discussion points for this last question. At some point, don't you think, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but don't you think that we must bring Allah God into the equation and ask the question, why is all of this happening and where is all of this going?
Absolutely. God is at the center. There's no way we can do this without him. And he's no spook neither. He's a supreme being. He's the supreme being. His ways is what we have to follow. Everything that the God gave to Moses, and when Moses told the people, thou shalt not do, the enemy turned around and said, it's all right. We can start right there. Every commandment that God says don't do, the enemy justifies it, just like the minister teaches us about rationalizing our deceptive intelligence. So we have to recognize today that inside of us, there's God. Inside of us also there's Satan. And we are at war every day against the Satan of self. So there is absolutely no way that without Allah God at the center of our relationship, for us to hold on to him, to his mighty rope that never breaks, there's nothing I can't do that I'll be able to do rather without him. If I'm in a marriage, there's nothing I'll be able to do without me and my wife holding on to that mighty rope. Our family holding on to that mighty rope. The believers and brothers and sisters holding on to that mighty rope. The country to turn from those ways, and we hold on to his mighty rope. So without God, there is absolutely no way. And he is knocking on the doors of America. We're taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He says that America is on God's list as number one. Well, let's look at the behaviors inside of America. And that's why they hate the minister and the truth that he speaks to power, because he is a man of God, of integrity, leading the people to turn from those ways. So we have to turn from our old ways into now back to the way of God, so that we can have peace in heaven on earth, starting in our mind. And I close by saying, when the scripture says, behold, God makes all things new. There's no way that I'm going to be a new person. We're going to be a new people without a new mind. So let's take a look to see who's the king of our dome today. Is it God or is it Satan? We can tell by the way we think, by the way we speak, and by the way we act. So let us turn to God. And you want to know who he is? You really want to know who he is? Come on, just listen to Minister Farrakhan and follow him, and you'll be happy.
That's right. Thank you, my brother, all the way from Miami, Florida, Student Regional Minister Patrick Muhammad. Thank you for honoring us with your presence today, my brother. Thank you for coming on to our show and sharing with our viewing audience.
Thank you so much, my dear brother Robert. It is a pleasure and honor to be on the show with you.
Yes, sir. Thank all of our viewers for joining us today and tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Robert Muhammad with National Network View News.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people, and upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Call now, 502-219-4848. This week's headline for the Final Call cover story is entitled, Under the Shadow of Death. The trial of Derek Chauvin, the ex-police officer and accused murder of George Floyd, has begun, giving exposure to grief, loss, and the terror Black people continue to suffer with no guarantee of justice. This FCM Volume Number 27 edition features the middle page article by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the message to the Nubian Leadership Circle entitled, Building a Nation of Our Own. To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the nnvnews.com Final Call Cover Report.